Over $2,000 in repairs on an old 2007 Buick Lucerne. Is it worth it? Is it even worth putting that money into this? We're going to find out. Let's get started. We are finishing up repairs on the Callaway Camaro, and one of the old parts that came out of it is the water pump, which Mrs. Wizard has already turned into a really cool clock. This thing is awesome. You guys can go bid on this on the auctions that are going on and take a look. Look at that, guys. It is really cool. It just sits on a desk just like this. It's got the Chevy emblem because it came out of Chevy. Very, very cool. If you watch Hoovie's Garage, you saw that he had a gasoline-operated heater in the old Town & Country. We actually removed that, and she's turned that into a really cool MP3 player, which is really awesome. Go check out those auctions. They're really, really great pieces. Really nice, Mrs. Wizard. Now let's get back to the Buick. This is a 2007 Buick Lucerne. It is in pretty good shape. It has the venerable 3.8. This is some of the last years you could get the 3800 V6, which is made by Buick. And I told you guys they're bulletproof. They're amazing. But this one needs a ton of work. And the reason why is not because it's a bad engine. It's because it has 365,000 miles on it. I would expect any engine with those many miles to need some repairs at that point. This one is no exception. The customer owns his car. He asked me, Car Wizard, I got the estimate from him a little over $2,000. He said, I understand it's a lot of money, but he says, I can't even go buy another car today for that much money. Even if I could get one for $4,000 or $5,000, it'll probably need $2,000 in work as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and fix it. I said, the miles are pretty high on this. Are you sure? He's like, yeah, it runs perfect. It's just got a bad coolant leak. But before we dive into what was all wrong with this thing, let's take a look around it. Here's the front of this Lucerne. And as we go around, keep in mind this is very high miles. And still, it's presentable. It looks decent. It has some fogged up headlights, which with this many miles, I'm not surprised. Got some decent wheels on it, some nice tires. As you can see, it's not dinged up or wrecked or rusted out. It's dirty. I think they live on a dirt road or something, but otherwise, it's presentable. Like I said, doesn't appear to have been wrecked. This is the CXL model. It's got nice leather seats and everything, but overall in pretty good shape. This thing, though, it needed a little help. Speaking of help, have you ever thought of how much time you put into making your car run better and look nicer? Now compare that to how much you spend on you and your well-being. February can be a very hard month for many people. The days of cold and dark with the short hours of sunlight, with constant winter weather, not to mention all the pressure of Valentine's Day. Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp, you know, the largest therapy platform in the world that's totally online. If you find that you're struggling with something in your life, don't do it alone. BetterHelp has over 30,000 therapists that are there to help you. It's so easy. Just go to betterhelp.com/carwizard. There, you can fill out a simple questionnaire, and in most cases, it will match you to a therapist within 48 hours. I can't get many parts of the shop faster than that. From there, you can schedule your sessions based on your schedule and your preferred contact method, be that by phone call, video chat, or messaging. It's all up to you. If for any reason you feel the therapist you were matched with isn't a good fit, no worries. No awkward face-to-face breakup. Just simply request a new therapist. Join the over 4 million people that have used BetterHelp to start a happier and healthier life. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/carwizard. Clicking that link helps support this channel, and it also gets you up 10% off your first month at BetterHelp. Don't let the winter blahs get you down. Click that link so BetterHelp can help you connect with a therapist that wants to listen to you and your struggles. Now back to this Buick. I've actually been working in the shop myself lately. We're so busy with so many cars that I've actually had to come out and take on a few jobs myself. The guys in the shop are not too enthused about working on an old Buick, but I cut my teeth on these things. I know them like the back of my hand. I can just zip through this stuff. It's a cakewalk to me. This one came in with a coolant leak, literally dripping all over the ground. It was running rough. It had check engine light on, a few other issues they wanted to check out, and it turned out to be kind of extensive to solve. Let's go ahead and take a look in the engine bay. As you can see, I have quite a lot of things apart on the front of this engine. I'm actually starting to go back together, but I'll show you here in a minute what was the problem. But these are really, really good engines. As you can tell with the amount of miles that are on this thing, and it still runs like a champ. These are easy to work on. A lot of parts you can see, you can get to them. The thermostat is literally 2 bolts right there. It's like a 10-minute job. You guys know I've made videos on the 3.8 engine on many different cars that have been in the shop. I really have high praise for them. If you can't afford a Toyota, it's a little high, definitely get one of these with the 3.8. 300 and some thousand miles, and it's still going strong. Before we dive into what happened here, let's let Mrs. Wizard show you guys around the interior with over 300,000 miles on it. See how it looks.
365,793 miles before it went away. That's insane. If we look at the gauge closer, all the plastic around everything is in nice condition. There's not a lot of dust. There's more dust going to be on the outside than on the inside of this car. This is going to present very well. You're going to be quite shocked. The dash is not tore up. There's no cracks, there's no crevices, there's no foam spilling out. The faux wood is in great condition. We've got a little, I guess, a holder for a cell phone that's been added. It looks like we can connect to the radio as well. They've added a little bit of a spot there to get that cord through, but the infotainment system, wow, doesn't get much easier than that. But again, it's in really good condition. The screen's looking great. I guess they have a little bit of dust. I'll clean their car for them. There we go. I got rid of the leaf for them. Yeah, it's in that good of shape. If we look to our seats, this is like a sofa. They are well broken in, and not in a bad way. They feel like they're just like a glove that wraps around you. The leather is in superb condition. We move that center section up. Here is our spot for that bench seat for our 6th person in the car. Looks like maybe a drink might have spilled at some point there, but that is it. This is all. The leather stitching is in great condition. The seats are in great condition, and the one I'm sitting in is just like the passenger. Even the door handle, look at the door handle. That is a spot that you would definitely see grit, grime, just hands and fingerprints and things like that. Clean. Isn't that amazing? Now, I'm not saying it's perfect. The floor does need to be vacuumed, but other than the floor being vacuumed, this thing is in great shape. Now, he mentions he has kids, and I know he said he had kids because I actually spoke to the gentleman. Does it look like kids sat back there? No, these seats look great. The seat belts look great. Looks like there might have been a little bit of marking on there from when they were on a child, but that is it. That is the marks that we see. Headliner, pristine condition. He taught them no Cheeto fingers, no touching that ceiling, because again, it's that light camel color. Could definitely notice it. This is the only thing in the entire interior that has some sort of wear. And with this many miles, I would expect the steering wheel to show some wear and tear. And so looks a little dirty. The camera picks it up far more than it actually looks like, because you get just a lot more contrast with the camera. And the one button here, you can correct me in the comments if we're wrong, but I'm guessing that's to turn on the cruise. Again, obviously, if you've had this car for this long and you've got 300,000 miles on it, you know what that button is. You don't need it to tell you what it was. So that is it. I'm really curious, what's wrong with the engine, and why was there a major leak?
So why is the engine torn apart, at least the front of the engine? It had a coolant leak, like I mentioned, and we pressure tested it, and it would just pour out. But it wasn't the water pump. It was actually the timing cover where it mounts to the block. And with this many miles on it, I can say, okay, you know, I get it. It's a lot of miles. It's to be expected. Let's take a look. Do you see the little blue ring around the top of this timing cover? That's actually the gasket. That's the new one. I actually had all this apart today. It was just a paper gasket. The upgrade is a nice metal one. But right over in here, where I'm pointing with my screwdriver, you can see it's all crusty down through there. It was just pouring coolant out. You could almost put a cup down there and fill it up pretty fast. It's where the gasket has blown out, not at the water pump, but actually timing cover back here. It's easy to do a water pump on these. It's not a big deal. The timing cover is completely a different story. There's a lot of things that has to come off. Let me show you. Obviously the alternator here is unhooked and out of the way. Here's a little bracket for our ignition coils, which also are being replaced with a tune-up, but which goes right here. And back here we have the alternator bracket, which, you know, from the factory, these have plastic elbows that go through these heater hose ports into here, which I can actually feel. Watch this, guys. I'm going to pull the remnants of it out. There's a piece of the old one there. Plastic. Look at that, guys. Trash. And here's another hole right in the intake where another elbow goes. Obviously we're not going back with plastic ones, we'll be putting brand new metal ones. The water pump has to come off to get the bolts out of the way and everything. Power steering pump needs to come off, the harmonic balancer needs to come off. Then you can unbolt the timing cover and get all that stuff out of the way. This one requires a special harmonic balancer puller. It takes these little small threaded long bolts that go into the harmonic balancer. You're able to pull it off. We actually had one here in the shop. But as you can see, this is not a 20-minute job. This takes quite a bit of time to get this all apart, and it adds up pretty fast. You saw that there was a new water pump. Why would we put the old one back on and 3 months later it fails? Because it has a lot of miles on it. So yes, we discussed this with the customer. If we're taking this all apart, you're not just getting a new gasket. You're getting new coolant elbows. You're getting a new water pump, a new front main seal, a new serpentine belt. A whole slew of things are going on here, which adds more and more and more to the bill. And it adds up pretty fast. The next issue was a check engine light, and we actually connected to scan tool and found an issue with the mass airflow sensor. And when I removed it, which actually just slides out the side, it's like a little cassette that comes out, I got to looking at the actual, these are the tiny little sensors here. And on the back side, you see it's nice shiny metal. That's the way it should be on the front as well, where the air flows over it, but it's not. It's dirty. There's dirt all over. You can actually see a tiny little hair right there. These things are coated in dirt. That doesn't surprise me, again, with over 300,000 miles, and you can see they live on a dirt road. It's dusty and dirty. Even with a new air filter, some dirt is going to get through after so many miles. So yeah, has this prematurely failed? No. It's actually got a very good life. This is the original one. I'm happy about that. So we're going to put a new one on that'll take care of that issue. And the next thing at hand, it was running a little rough, kind of like it needs a tune-up. Again, with this many miles, it's no surprise. So we're going to do all 6 plugs, all 6 wires, and with, like I keep saying this over and over, with this many miles. But with this many miles, we're going to put all 3 new coils, which each coil does 2 cylinders, and just do a full, complete tune-up on it. And that will solve that issue. So you add the tune-up with coils, plugs, wires, the labor, and the hours of labor it takes to do this timing cover, and all the gaskets, and a water pump, and serpentine belt, and elbows, and a mass airflow sensor. And you guys get the drift. It adds up really fast. Over $2,000. Is it worth it? With this many miles. Look, there I said it again, with this many miles. The customer said it is absolutely worth it to them. They are ecstatic and happy to spend that much money on this car. With all those things fixed, it still runs very well. With the repairs we've just done, it's very likely it could get to 450,000 miles. I have worked on Buick LeSabres and Park Avenues with this engine in it that had 450,000 miles, and they still actually drove good. Now by then, they're needing control arms and bushings and things in the suspension, obviously. But these are just as good as a Toyota, and they're a lot cheaper. So, in our view, is it worth it? Absolutely. It is worth it. There are newer cars that cost more money than this car is worth on the market today that would be in worse condition and cost more in repairs than what we've got here on the table right here. So yes, it is absolutely worth it. I wish all cars could go this many miles. I don't know I've ever seen an Audi or a Mercedes or a BMW that's newer, 2012, 2014, with 400,000 miles. I just don't see that. Usually the entire car is so roached out by then that nobody wants to drive it. But these cars are just they're troopers. They're bulletproof. They really, really are. So again, if you're looking for a cheap car, you don't want to spend a bunch of money, and it needs to be reliable, a Lucerne would be great. LeSabre, Park Avenue, anything with a 3.8. If you're curious what kind of tools we use to work on this Lucerne, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. A lot of the tools we use in the shop are actually listed for sale there, and we get a small cut if you purchase anything there. Really appreciate it. No muffler Newton, thank you, appreciate that. Still not done? Okay. Also check out Mrs. Wizard's Way. She's got all kinds of videos there for you to watch. Also, the auctions are going on for Mrs. Wizard's part work. Just like we showed you at the beginning of this video, you don't want to miss out on a chance to bid on that really sweet work. It's very nice. Also, while you're at it, hit the subscribe button for this channel because there is tons of videos yet to come for you guys. Thanks for watching.